Throughout the process of producing my short film production, I used a variety of media technologies to achieve the final outcome of my products. For the whole planning process, I documented all of my decisions and research on my blog. I used a website called WordPress to create my blog, and from there on it was a pretty straightforward process that was effective to show my ideas development throughout producing the short film, the film poster and the film review. In addition to this, on my blog there's a wide range of evidence of research that I carried out during the research and planning stages of my production, showing that I was trying to gain a further understanding into the topic that I was basing my production on, therefore resulting in the production being more successful as I would have a wider understanding into the theme that I was working with. I used Google to carry out basic research into different elements of my short film. However, I also used websites such as YouTube in the planning and research stages. YouTube was a very helpful website for me to use when I first began planning my own short film, as it enabled me to watch already established short films to gain an understanding of the key conventions that are involved in short film productions. As well as helping me to advance my knowledge of short films, YouTube also helped me to decide what genre and path I wanted to take with my own production. From watching a variety of short film productions from The Black Hole to Mixtape, it enabled me to decide what genre I wanted to use. As well as using YouTube primarily for the research stages of my work, I also used it a great amount to upload and embed videos onto my blog and to support commentary from textual analyses. As well as using YouTube for the research and planning stages of my production, I also used it to do my own additional research into plugins that I could use on Final Cut Pro. After receiving some audience feedback, I decided that based on my audience's opinions that I would add different tone filters to different shots in order to help portray the protagonist's emotions. However, the overlay filters already downloaded on Final Cut didn't work for what I wanted. Therefore, I did some of my own research to find a download off the internet for extra filters to use on the software. During the pre-production planning process of my short film, I used basic programs such as Microsoft Word and PowerPoint to create questionnaires for my target audience to respond to, and also to create graphs to analyse the results from these questionnaires. Being a student filmmaker meant that I did not have access to a big budget, nor did I have a good camera to film with. At AS level, I filmed my opening sequence production on my iPhone 6s as I did not have access to any other filming technology, therefore I had no choice of what I could use. However, for my short film production, I did manage to gain access to a Nikon D5100, which did allow me to film better quality footage and have the ability to zoom in on a subject from afar without the footage becoming grainy. Furthermore, I used a wide variety of softwares to construct the final product of my short film production, film poster and review. Having already used Final Cut Pro during the post-production stages of my AS opening sequence meant that I was already familiar with its features and how it worked, resulting in the post-production stages of my short film being a lot quicker and smoother because I already knew how the software operated. Conversely, the editing process of my film review was a lot more time consuming as I was using a software that I was not familiar with. I used the software InDesign for the construction of my film review, and having never used this software before slowed down the process of creating a review as I had to experiment with different factors before I began constructing my review, as I did not know how to use the software. I found InDesign quite tricky to use at first because I didn't know where any of the tools were, so I had to figure all of that out before I began editing my review. However, after using the software a couple of times, I did quickly catch on to how it operated, which meant that I was easily able to edit any mistakes that I had made since I already knew what I was doing. The final software that I used to construct my final product was Photoshop, which I used to create my film poster. I had previously used Photoshop before, however my previous experiences with it were not very good, and I struggled to operate all of the different layers, and it took me a lot longer to catch on how to use it than it did for InDesign and Final Cut Pro. Looking back at my AS and comparing it to what I've produced at A2 level, I can confidently say that there has been clear developments in skills, but there have also been aspects that I have not developed. From AS to A2, it's clear that I have developed my use of camera shots and movements in a way that I now think about what camera shot and movement to use to help portray a certain meaning. I use a lot of close-ups in my A2 work to portray the protagonist's emotions, whereas at AS I could have used this shot type more to show the protagonist's feelings, but instead I focused more on using extreme long shots and long shots to show the setting, which worked well to create a tense atmosphere for the crime drama genre. However, there have been obvious improvements in my pre-production planning stages from AS to A2, whereby I have carried out extra research into the theme of my production, giving myself a wider understanding, which I did very little of at AS. My blog overall is much more put together at A2, clearly showing the development from the initial idea to the final product and my decisions along the way. The scripting process for my short film was much quicker than my script that I produced for my AS opening sequence, as I was familiar with the process of creating a script, making it quicker and easier for me to use the software, and I already knew what type of detail needed to be included in a script in order for it to be successful. In terms of production, I believe that I have developed my skills very little. However, I think along the way of creating this piece of work, I have tried to be much more creative with my ideas, which didn't always work in my favour, but it did push me to keep trying even when something I had planned doesn't go the way I wanted it to. I have now developed the ability to use Photoshop and InDesign, and have widened my knowledge of these softwares, allowing me to be much more experimental and creative with these particular softwares in the future.